So my concept is about 3D designs on machine learning. And yeah. Okay, so I split into four places like background context, examples, training, and analysis. So for the background content, basically, in the past 10 years, the best performing artificial intelligence systems, such as speech recognizers on cell phones and Google's elastic automatic translators, have resulted from a technique called deep learning. And deep learning is at the new games for opposing artificial intelligence called neural networks, and which have been given in and out of fashion for more than 70 years. Neural networks were the first proposed in 1944 by Warren Michael and Walt Pitt, two University of Chicago researchers who moved to MIT in 1952, as founding members of what sometimes called the first conjunctive science department. And the neural network is an artificial intelligence method to teach computers to process data in a way inspired by human brain. This is a technique, a learning process called deep learning that uses interconnecting nodes or neurons in the hierarchy structure similar like human brain, which create adaptive system that computer use to learn from their mistake and prove. As a result, artificial neural networks can try to resolve complex problems, such as summarizing documents or accurately or recognizing faces. If neural networks are computed by a large number of artificial neurons connections, in most cases, the neuron networks will change internal structures, and they biases or internal informations, and the active systems. In layman's terms, is function of learning. That's how I use it in 3D modeling of my game. For neural networks, a functioning graph can split into three parts. And the input layers, the hidden layers, and output layers. A neural network is structured like human brain and consists of artificial neurons, also known as nodes. And those nodes were stacked next to each other in three layers, functions of deep learning. So basically, in game engine Unity, you have nodes to connect in order to interact the player's movement. And the nodes is between connections to another connections. And it's similar structure like human brain. It's processing complex functions in order to forming the graphic that we see mostly. And there are so many type of algorithms in deep learning. So such as long short-term memory networks and recurrent neural networks. So I'm just gonna give an example of a long short memory network. So LSTMs is a type of recurrent networks that can learn and memorize long-term dependencies, recalling past information for long periods that default behavior. And LSTM return information over time. They're useful in time series predictions because they remember previous inputs. And LCTMs have chain-like structures where four interacting layers and communicate in a unique way. Besides time series predictions, LSTMs are typically using for speech recognitions, music compositions, and physiological development. LSTM are primarily to learn, process, and classify sequence data because those networks learn long-time dependencies between time-step data. And common LSTM applications include segment analysis, language modeling, and speech recognitions and video analysis. And training and clustering, and that's the functions of the whole Unities was been utilized for giving trainings and the graphics, including the engines will built up. And its networks were well suited in classifying, process, and make predictions based on time series data, since they have unknown durations between important events in the time series. And K means which clustering in different groups, having dividing the data into multiple classes. And LSTS utilized to resolve linear regressions and time series problems. You can use in multiple places to predict the unseen data. And in our case, the test data. So we can use artificial neural networks to perform the regressions analysis. We have the neural networks contains training, and neural networks learnings by process examples, which is known as the input and result, and forming probabilities weighted associated between the two, and which is stored within the data structures of the net itself. The training of neural networks or given example usually conducted to determine the difference between process input of the network and target output. The difference is error. The network just weight associations according to the learning rules and using the error value. Successfully adjustment will cause neural networks to produce output and increasingly similar to target output. As a sufficient number of these adjustments, the training can be determined based on the certain criteria. This is from a supervising learning. Such system learn to performance tests by consider examples, generally being programmed with test-specific rules. For example, the image recognitions. And it might learn identify image and contains cat by analyze examples image that have been unusually labeled as cat or no cat, and use result to identify cats in other image. They do this without a prior knowledge of cat. For example, they have furs, tails, and whiskers, and cat-like face instead, and automatically generate identified characteristics from examples they process. And that's how like the graphic was working. So it's providing every separate FPS for example, the video is providing every single FPS in order to forming the videos. It's every single pictures was been drawn. So it's every single FPS will be connect to each other. Okay, for analysis, how do deep learning algorithms work compared to machine learning? While deep learning's algorithm features self-learning representations, they depend upon the ANS and mirrors in ways bring computer informations. During training process, algorithms are using elements in the input distributions and iterative features, group objects, and discover useful data pattern. And such like trainings machines for self-learning and occurs in multiple levels, using the algorithm to build the model. And deep learning models make use of several algorithms, while no one network is considered perfect. So, some algorithms are better suited to perform specific tasks. To choose the right ones, and good gain solid understanding of primary algorithm. And both machine learning and deep learning are type of artificial intelligence. Simply put, machine learning is artificial intelligence that can adapt it automatically with minor humans interventions. Deep learning is subset of machine learning and uses artificial neurons to manipulate the learning process of the human brain. And that is very connecting to the game that I created. Sure. And all right, for methodologies, give me a second. Okay. And for the methodologies and solutions in my game, okay. That's the creations of my graph. You have C structures into user applying, then you providing branches to 3D modelings and decisions, and decisions was choosing to process or initializing, which is simply input and output. The initializing is output of the functions, and yeah, the 3D modeling is forming into the script. A script goes to multiple scenes, which you have the first scene, next scene, and the other scenes to combine with nodes to interact to the next one, and you have the game functioning, and process into ML algorithm. So I implement each component one by one in order to accomplish the fundamental settings of the project by starting to build random levels, building NPCs, which is a character, and that NPC having able to conversations with the player, and you have multiple answers to select NPC providing different feedbacks. And we use C# script or Unity codings. C# programs are used to implementing various concepts of codings is writing on Visual Studio Code. Articulate, Visual Studio Code combines the best of webs, natives, and language-specific technologies. And using electrons, VS Code combine web technologies such as JavaScript and nodes. And it's with speed and flexibilities of native apps like Unity, I build up on my game. Just a thing of my game. Unfortunately, I don't able to open my game in this computer to demonstrate that. So, yeah. And this scene is showing an NPC conversations. The algorithm that is that use simply serialize connected to reference back into Unity that you have a space to build up your sightings, which is machine learnings. Then you are as a player, you have a conversation with NPCs, and it leads to NPC to the next one. Next actions that correspond to your actions to the NPC. So that's a process of machine learning that the NPC was improving by the conversations between you and NPC, and that's an interaction interventions among humans. So okay, similar to creating your own compute components, and the public means the data you are available to change in game data, and it shows in the game, and private like initial settings that you have able to change, and it is database located at. That's my code. The serialize just giving the serialized field is just providing the in-game data that you were able to change. And you have NPC conversations in between the player and the game object player, and you have the private that you don't able to change in game, but it's changing data in Unity. And you have the public that also you're able to change in game that build up on serialized field. Yeah. And the next code is based on task systems the game has. The task system means you have accomplished every task in order to go to the next level. It also have tasks triggered by conversations or NPC characters. In the part of the code, we use booleans to run it. And booleans operator is OR, which borders in your search. And the operator is used to express a long as one of more conditions are met. The values are specific or untrue or false. The first part of to ensure the complete in previous text, and you're able to add a new text eventually. And the second part is remove text, and you finish your text and show mark off on your text board. And the last thing is to check and the test is completed, which I have it right here. A new task is adding after you finish the previous text. The finished text is just remove on the test board. Okay. Yeah. For the evaluations, the project designs solve problems, discover how I make random level generators, and could generate mod because simulation units, and you could able to generate random level due to this. And the fire mod is connected to due to the bug, and how I try to make the generator to stable each individual levels and importing the random level generator into different kinds of methods to the map. And I will improve on the stabilities and the mod-based game. So ensure that the fire simulations across the level, and not only fires, and also adding the gun shootings basically around the problems around it in high school in America. So to giving the simulation by that, the student are better to escape from this happen. So that's the purpose of I create this game, and yeah. Thank you for watching. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I think I'm done.